I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Unfortunately, everyone's going to be hearing me read a lot of things tonight, so bear with me. I'll try to be as succinct as possible. Okay, announcements. On Tuesday, April 12th, Merrimack Sal's Pizzas franchise owner, John Borum, passed away at Elliott Hospital following an automobile accident. John, along with his business partner, Mark Condry, received the Merrimack's Rotary Club's Excellence in the Workplace Award in 2014 for their generosity and contributions to local events, sports teams, fundraisers, the police department, and the community as a whole. On behalf of the Merrimack Town Council, we would like to extend our sincere condolences to the family and friends of John, and I'd like to have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Godspeed, John. Other announcements. Thursday, April 28th, in this room is a regular town council meeting at 7 p.m. Thursday, May 12th, again, another regular council meeting here in the Matthew Thornton room at 7 p.m. Thursday, May 26th, another regular council meeting, 7 p.m. And Thursday, June 5th at 7 p.m., in this room, another regular council meeting. Eileen?
The dog licenses are due by April 30th. The town clerk's office will be open this Saturday from April 16th, on April 16th, from 9 a.m. to noon for dog licensing. The Rotary Club will be offering a rabies clinic at the same time in the town hall parking lot at the former Mars ambulance garage, which is right out here. Rabies shots are $20. Please bring your current shot records with you. Thank you.
Okay, Kinder Morgan, there is nothing new to report on that. I would like to bring before this council the possibility of establishing a PFOA information section to this agenda to be able to report to the community any new updates. I know we have established the website with information, but I think we should make it conscious, and I'd like to be able to have an opinion from the council.
Works for me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
Would you be allowing for questions and commentary at that point?
Yes. Right. Which is, thank you for bringing that up. That's another reason we should have it. It provides an opportunity for any person in the public, a resident, citizen that wants to come in, ask questions, provide information. That would be an opportune time. Instead of having a separate public hearing evening, it provides an opportunity every single week to be able to do that. Okay, great. And in order to do that, I'm going to start it off because I've pulled together some information to be able to provide, and then it will just be an update. Since the receipt of the initial notification on Thursday, March 3rd regarding the PFOA contamination in the Merrimack Village District public water supply, the Town Council has worked hard to maintain transparency and update the residents with any associated information as we receive it. On Friday, March 4th, a page was created on the town website that has been consistently maintained and posted with information such as the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services meeting with the town of Merrimack that took place on Wednesday, March 23rd. The video presentation is there, and there's also a link to the handouts that were present at the time. A link to the New Hampshire DES PFOA page, which has been and continues to be the primary resource in the results and findings. A link to the Merrimack Village District website. Important correspondence to include letters from members of state government and congressional delegation, and a public statement from St. Cobain Performance Plastics. A meeting requested by Senator Ayotte occurred on Friday, April 8th. This meeting was requested to meet with representatives of the affected towns and Merrimack Village District to get more in-depth knowledge regarding the issue. It was suggested that Senate Ayotte do the following things. Encourage the United States EPA, the federal, to quickly establish lifetime PFOA levels in order to evaluate all water resources for safety, and that's throughout the country. There are some variabilities from state to state. We need a consistent level. Encourage the EPA to establish a consistent laboratory standard upon which all testing can be evaluated. Encourage the federal and regional EPA to become much more visible and active in this investigation, and to further explore and investigate the historical and current air quality monitoring that has occurred and continues to occur by the New Hampshire DES. After that meeting, the town of Merrimack, Litchfield, Bedford, and Londonderry decided to develop a consortium for the purpose of focusing on monitoring and sharing information, responding to concerns of our residents, in contact with New Hampshire DES and St. Cobain. This initial meeting has not been scheduled yet. It'll probably be done within the next week. Yes.
You didn't say MVD also. They're going to be part of the consortium. It didn't say
okay,
that
that's
on there.
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will attempt to continue to update all of the information updated on the website. Now, we've had a couple of releases, press releases. One was just yesterday, a press release by New Hampshire DES, which states an expansion of the private well testing analysis from a 1 mile radius to a 1.5 mile radius from St. Cobain. All results are on the DES website. Not only do they have the numbers, but they also have a map that indicates where all the results are. There was also a press release today that talks about I'll read it, to announce that it has been received preliminary sample results from groundwater and soil samples taken at St. Cobain and Merrimack. The groundwater test results were found to contain PFOA concentrations ranging from 280 parts per trillion to 5,800 parts per trillion. A review preliminary soil sample data found the PFOA soil concentrations ranging from non-detect to 30 parts per billion. They measure it in billions, not trillions. New Hampshire DES compared these results against residential soil screening levels developed by the EPA Region 4, which is this area. Oh, Hoosick Falls, okay, which was the initiator of this, of 16,000 parts per billion, and the state of Vermont and the other ones who have the parts per trillion for the water set at 20 parts per trillion. So they've been very conservative. And their soil screening of 300 parts per billion. The soil sample levels of PFOA detected at the St. Cobain facility are well below these screening values. So bad is 5,800 water parts per trillion, but the soil is much lower. In addition, soil samples taken near the facility, the St. Cobain, will be testing soil at properties with sensitive populations, for example, schools, daycare centers, and playgrounds within a 1 mile radius of the facility in Merrimack. DES identified 8 properties in Merrimack and Litchfield that will be tested. New Hampshire DES has reviewed and commented on a draft work scope, and testing is anticipated to begin late next week. Okay? Is there anything else that you think should be added at this point? Eileen?
We have set the preliminary date for the consortium meeting.
Okay, but is that finalized yet? That's why I didn't mention
Yeah, I think it is. Tuesday at 6:30.
it. Okay, on the 26th. That's the date.
Yeah, at 6:30, yeah.
I did want to mention something, Bill. I'm glad you hemmed for a second. Bill came up with a good idea, which I followed up on. Bill Boyd had made a comment about perhaps MVD could be a little bit more proactive in communicating. And I did speak with the superintendent as well as one of the commissioners. And the idea was to have a summary and have updates for all of the customers of MVD, and they thought it was a terrific idea, and they're going to be discussing it in their commission's meeting on Monday night. And I also added on top of that, the rationale for that is even, we have people, especially elderly, that do not use the web. They're not looking into a computer to get information, nor may they have cable. So that would be a good opportunity, a method by which they could
But
communicate.
they read their bills.
And they read and get their bills.
They read
That's
their
correct.
bills.
So, okay, did you want to say something?
I was going to ask, is it appropriate to talk about the communication we received from Senator Shaheen's office in the press release with her outreach to the EPA Administrator McCarthy? I know it's mentioned on the website.
It
but
is.
I don't know if you want to mention
Well, I
it.
think you just did.
Okay, here we go.
If you want to expound on it and all, that's fine, but that's... Eileen?
I just found out today that there's going to be a weekly DES conference call between myself and all the rest of the community managers. So me, Litchfield, Bedford, and Londonderry.
I wonder if Manchester might be included in the future.
They may be in the future.
We say that because there was a well found to have elevation in Manchester. Yes, so Shaheen has...
The long and the short of it was that apparently she had a phone conference with the EPA Administrator McCarthy, iterating and stressing the need that the EPA needs to act yesterday as opposed to some point in the future regarding establishing an appropriate parts per trillion standard as it relates to PFOAs in water. That the health advisory just is not enough, that there needs to be something tangible and concrete for New Hampshire to have available so that they can plan accordingly.
And that has to do with the long-term
And
effect
the
as
long-term
well,
effects as
as
well,
compared to a
correct.
short-term. Right. Okay, so we'll do this on a weekly basis. Any new information, again, our webpage at merrimacknh.gov. Right on the front is a webpage that also has links to New Hampshire DES, to MVD, and it'll bring you right to the DES link website that has all the information there, including the press release. So, okay. Yes, Eileen.
Also, it's done in sections, and the information is reversed chronologically, so anything that we just recently received, it's dated and goes.
the top.
It starts at the top.
Right. Right. They're doing a good job of keeping up to date, I thought. Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to say about that? Okay. Comments from the press and public about this or anything else? Seeing none. Recognition, resignations, and retirements. First in our agenda. I'm not sure if you want to come up here, Emma, while I read this. Oh, you're going to have to get up anyway.
Come
Come
on
on,
up.
the both
Come on
of
up.
you
This
come
is a
up.
big deal, Emma. Come on.
Her father is here as well. Her father can take pride in hearing this. This is for recognition of the Prudential Spirit of Community Ward honoree Emma Williams. What I have done is I have drafted a proclamation that I would like to be able to read, and at the end, I'm going to move to proclaim this. Now, let me read it, okay? And Dad just sort of bask in the honor of this as well. Whereas, as a senior at Bishop Girton High School, Emma began organizing an annual basketball tournament to raise money to provide Christmas gifts for families in need in her community. Whereas, she was challenged by the club's advisor to think of ways to raise money for charity, of which she proposed a fundraiser, quote, Heart of Hoop, end quote, basketball tournament. Whereas, she reached out to coaches and referees and recruited 8 teams who paid an entrance fee to play in the tournament, and additional money was raised by selling tickets to spectators as well as conducting a raffle and shooting competitions. Whereas she also encouraged the spectators to bring canned food to the tournament, which was donated to charity. Whereas her annual tournaments have raised more than $8,000, enough to brighten the holidays of 80 families in her area. Whereas Emma Williams was recently named as one of our state's top honorees in the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards program, a nationwide program honoring young people for outstanding acts of volunteerism. Whereas she received $1,000, an engraved silver medallion, and an all-expense paid trip to Washington, D.C. in early May, where she will join the other state honorees as well as the 2 top honorees from each of the other states and the District of Columbia for 4 days of national recognition events. During the trips, 10 students will be named America's Top Youth Volunteers of 2016. As chairman and on behalf of the Merrimack Town Council, I commend you, Emma Williams, our Prudential Spirit of Community Award honoree, for her outstanding volunteer contribution to others in our community. And therefore, in honor of this achievement, I move to proclaim Thursday, April 14th, 2016, as Emma Williams Prudential Spirit of Community Recognition Day in Merrimack, New Hampshire.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Number 11.
And we have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, second by Tom Mahan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Done deal.
Where do you go? Are you going to college in the fall?
Yes.
Where are you going? Good for you.
Bentley.
Great
Good
school.
girl.
Great school. Good for you. You going to play hoop there? No? Okay.
Congratulations, Emma.
All good things. 2 more good things. You can stay if you want, but you're not required to. Recognition of retirement of town employees, and we have 2, one at a time. The Town Council present a recognition award to Lieutenant Edmonds in recognition of his retirement from the Town of Merrimack Police Department after more than 30 years of service. Lieutenant Edmonds retired effective December 31st, 2015, and Chief Mark Doyle is going to
Where they're coming
have
from.
a few words, I'm sure. So go right ahead, Mark.
Yes, just a few. You said it was a good
Kind
thing,
words
Madam
as
Chair.
well.
Yes. And thank you for allowing us to come up tonight and recognize a couple of exemplary individuals and really say thank you and good luck and best wishes. And you hit it right on the head when we have a couple of good things to talk about, because between the 2 of them, there's over 60 years of service that they've committed to this town. 60 years from 2 employees that they've
Do you want to
committed.
do both of them at the same time?
I could.
Okay, because what I can do is we're also going to be giving, recognizing Lieutenant Paul A. Trepany in recognition of his retirement as well from the Town of Merrimack Police Department after more than 30 years of service. And he retired effective just December 31st as well. So we can deal with both at the same time. How's that?
Thank you. That would
Perfect.
be that would be perfect. And if I could ask them to come up here with me, that'd
Absolutely.
be even better.
They look well rested already. Yeah, what is the TN's business? There we go. Good for you.
It's a good thing, and it's bittersweet because it's a good thing, like I said, we're honoring 2 exemplary individuals for 60 years plus of service to this community. And it's bittersweet because we're saying goodbye to them, at least to the degree that we're not going to be able to tap into that institutional knowledge that they have and the talent that they brought, as well as the leadership and mentorship that they provided, not only to our department, but to fellow officers and to members of the community. And I'll just give you a quick snapshot of their careers, if I could, if you'd indulge me for just a minute. Both Danny and Paul were hired back in 1985. Both went to the 74th Police Academy. They They were actually hired with me. There were a group of us from Massachusetts that then Captain Mulligan had reached out to bring up to the great state of New Hampshire, and none of us have any regrets in doing so. Dan's here with his wife Pam. Paul's here with his wife Kelly, his son Braden, and daughter Peyton. Both Massachusetts natives. Paul, a fellow Billerickite, if you call it a Billerickite. Danny's from Woburn. Danny served as a patrolman, a detective, was a patrol sergeant as one of our supervisors, and retired recently as a patrol lieutenant. Paul similarly was a administrative lieutenant from the services division when he retired, worked as a detective lieutenant, as a patrol sergeant as well, as a detective and as a patrolman. Danny had a specialty in computer and IT applications and worked diligently with our computer record management service provider to constantly upgrade and tweak our systems so we could become more and greater and better in all that we do and more efficient when it comes to the administrative aspects of running the department. Paul had a similar acumen, if you will, about being IT-oriented and was, as well as Danny, past commanders of our accident investigation and technical reconstruction team. Danny was a founding member of our department's honor guard. He was an identikit trainer, was very highly trained, associate's degree in criminal justice, went and attended Babson College at the New England Institute of Law Enforcement Management. About 2,500 hours of training total over the course of his 30-year career. Paul was a specialist in grant writing. I know you all remember Paul for many years.
We'll miss not seeing you in front of us, Bob.
Paul was also responsible for our radio system oversight and responsible for putting together our capital improvement plan for our current radio system, which we're working diligently to make sure it gets installed. He was responsible for upgrading our access control, was directly responsible for recruitment, hiring, and training of all of our personnel, and was really directly responsible for a lot of our social media outreach and our website development. Paul's one of our most highly trained department members as well, about 3,000 hours of training over the course of his last 30 years, Associate's of Science degree in Business Management or Business Computer Applications, a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Management. Also went to the New England Institute of Law Enforcement Management at Babson College. Firearms instructor, one of our department's armorers. Really, between the two of them, far too much to mention in terms of what they have done for the department and for the community over the last 3,000 years. Paul was the Police Officer of the Year in 2013 for single-handedly apprehending an armed robbery suspect from the Bank of America robbery. Danny was our 1996 Police Officer of the Year. Danny also received the Meritorious Service Award, the Chief's Achievement Award, the Life Saving Award, several Distinguished Unit Commendations, of which I was involved. Received the Purple Heart for a serious injury sustained during the course of taking out and carrying out his duties, and the Exceptional Service Award. Both, as I say, have provided so much more that we can ever really thank them for, and they're going to be both greatly missed. And I just want to say personally from the bottom of my heart to the both of you, I hate standing and looking behind me because I'm going to stand up here, that I want to thank you for the past 30-plus years of your friendship from a personal perspective and from a professional perspective, the 60-plus years you both have devoted yourselves to, and your families, because they're part of this package as well, to committing service to this town. So I want to thank you on behalf of everybody in the department. Thank you.
Make it short and sweet, and actually I say it all the time when people are retiring. But again, we are representatives of citizens. And as citizens, personally as well as a collective, I want to thank both of you for keeping us safe. Thank you. And enjoy your retirement and your rocking chairs. I don't know why is that symbolic. You know, like that's, you're not going to be using them for a while. Congratulations.
I want to thank you very much for the honor here for retirement. I want to thank the citizens of Merrimack for letting me serve you for the last 30 years. It's been a pleasure. It's a job that I've wanted since I was a kid. Not everybody can get it, but I was able to get the job. Joe Devine, Bill Mulligan, responsible for bringing us up here. And, you know, I never regretted leaving Massachusetts and coming to New Hampshire, and I brought my family up here. And I'm going to stay. And that rocking chair is going right next to my fireplace, and I will use it tonight.
Thanks. Just like Dan, I thank the council for this recognition, as well as the town manager and assistant town manager. Peers and mentors of the agency that we work for, it's been an honor and a privilege. Really don't know where the 30 years has gone, and of course I have to thank my lovely wife who's been with me for more than half of this time frame. So look back, don't know where it went, but it was a good career. Thank you.
Same kind of retirement.
You going to Florida? Are you going to take a picture of them rocking? Oh, the two of them. Chief Doyle, you know what payback is. Be careful. What do you say?
Just like Rose Haven.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Stay healthy and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Appointments. Annual review with the Parks and Recreation Committee. Committee Chair Chris Christensen. Per town. You'll learn. Per Town of Merrimack Charter, Section 6-6, at least annually, there should be an annual review with the Parks and Recreation Committee. This agenda item is to highlight the committee's significant actions, current projects, anticipated actions, and to raise any concerns the council should know or act upon. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Chris Christensen, Chairman of the committee. I'm joined by Laura Janes, who is the Vice Chair of the committee, and she's going to lead us off.
Yes, thank you for having us, and nice to see you all again. Keep up the good work. There's always things going on, but the Parks and Rec Committee functions primarily in an advisory capacity to the town manager through Parks and Rec Department Director. The director attends our meetings, and we coordinate with him, Matt, in building our meeting agendas. We are authorized 12 appointed members, which includes representatives from the Town Council, school boards, MYA, and the Senior Citizens Club. We currently have 1 vacancy and 2 open spots for alternates. While many people think that P&R is a department aimed at younger folks, we strive to encourage activities for all ages, so we have events aimed at little ones, like the Easter egg hunt, to the elders, such as bus trips and afternoon feature movies at the John O'Leary Adult Community Center. In between, the Christmas and 4th of July parades are aimed at families of all ages, as are the Winter Carnival and the Halloween party at Wasserman Park, and we work with others to co-sponsor or coordinate events such as Merrimack Friends and Family and the library. Some of these things that the committee has done directly include staffing and volunteering at these events, as well as volunteering at some of the new events started by Matt Kasparius, such as blood drives, etc.
Thank you, Laura. Oops. So, more conceptual than some of the direct action that Laura talked about. We have discussed and provided input to the director on new rules for renting the function hall at Wasserman Park, which we hope will be open very, very soon. That's been vacant or unused for a long, long period in terms of rentals, and we look forward to many new functions there. There was significant discussion around the rules, especially in terms of requiring insurance and how much and how to get it. Questions about what types of functions might require or not require a police detail. So we look forward to working now under the Recreation Revolving Fund, which was on the ballot Tuesday and passed. I think that'll give us some more flexibility than we've had in the past, and as you know, takes some of the funding off of the general fund and allows new programs on a self-sufficient basis, if you will. We're still going to rely on you for capital improvements and the like, but I think that'll still give us some opportunity to do more functions and events, and as you know, Matt Kasparias is very event-driven. We really welcome that. Over the last year or so, the planning has focused on improvements to Wasserman Park. We appreciate the support that you have given us financially as well as morally to get some of those things done. And it looks like in the coming year, our focus will be on a little bit broader range of activities. I don't want to say we've neglected other things, but we all know in the long run there are things that will have to come forward or should come forward. We know that in the next few months we hope to have some more information on the O'Gara Drive recreation area. Tennis courts have been an issue for the town for a long time. Obviously, it's still undecided whether some of these new things, tennis courts is the good example, might be better built and operated by the school system, since they're the ones that use them, and it's kind of awkward for them to bus people up to Wasserman Park for those tennis courts. We've had some interest from citizens in a full-size outdoor basketball court. We have a couple of other courts, but they're small, one at Wasserman Park and one at the O'Gara Drive area. So we're looking at that type of thing. We'd also point out that as we move into planning on some of these things, we go back to our town's history of citizen funding. We all know that Martell Field, Abbey Griffin Park, Kids Cove, Veterans Park all have a very, very heavy component of citizen fundraising, citizen support, whether volunteer labor or fundraising. And we see that the most current example is the Merrimack Dog Park, which we hope will be opening up next fall. And that's primarily citizen funding and that great contest. But we also hope that maybe the town will find or come across some extra funds that may bring that as soon as we get bids back and can get a tighter grasp on the very specific numbers for that. I think the other thing that we're kind of looking at, and we're always looking at playing fields, recreational playing fields. And we have roughly $150,000 in the capital reserve funds for that purpose. However, that's a very old number. We haven't added to that fund in quite some time. And it appears that if you wanted to build a new recreation field now, depending upon the type of field and how big it is, and what other adjacent amenities need to be done, that $150,000 isn't going to be enough. So I think as we get into our budget planning season, we may be looking, and we haven't had a chance to fully flesh this out, but we may be looking at coming back to the town council in the regular budget process and say, we ought to add X number of dollars per year to that capital reserve fund for field development. So I think that's sense of direction that we're looking at for the coming year. And we would be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments, questions? Dan, you've been an advocate for this.
Being the liaison
Been the-
on the committee, it's the best committee. I'm going to have to fight for Jackie for it, I'm sure, when she gets here, because it's really an enjoyable committee, and anybody who's have interest on it, I can assure you will be very well rewarded on the interest on it. But I think it's been a consensus, all of us, of taking care of the things that we've had has been kind of the theme over the last few years. And particularly when it comes to Wasserman Park, I think we've done that, and we're definitely in the right direction. A lot of volunteers are on that committee who are very interested in getting things done, and it's just been a pleasure. And as Eileen had noted, one of the big events that took place, the Easter egg hunt, had 800 people at the park. So it's, people know that place is there, and they get 800 people in. The amount of kids, I don't know what the ratio was, but that's quite a big crowd. But just thanks for everything you do, Chris, on that committee. It's the type of committee where you have a lot of volunteers, and sometimes you don't have, when you need the chairman or to vote for a chairman, and all of a sudden there's no hands that go up. I think Chris has been drafted more times than anything else, but
By default.
we appreciate the work that's been done there, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your support, and we'll be interested to see how you and Jackie battle it out to retain that seat.
Can we
the
watch?
Three Falls?
We can go. Can we sell tickets, perhaps? Jody?
Thank you. I wanted to thank the committee for the fine work that you do, too. I do watch some of your meetings from time to time, and I think you're a great support to Matt and the Parks and Rec Department here at the town. So I know it's a committee of volunteers, and I greatly appreciate the time that you put into it. And I wanted to thank you all, too, for the recommendations and the work that's been done on Wasserman Park, and Dan's enthusiasm and persistence in constantly trying to bring that park to the forefront, because I'm really happy to see a lot of the improvements and the subsequent use that the park's going to have, and having the Eagle Scout come forward and talk about lighting, and so there's a lot of exciting things going on. There was just a couple of statements made that and the tennis courts, I know it's a sore subject, but the tennis courts are not used by the school district. They're not used by anybody. They're not safe to use. They haven't been able to be used for years, and the school district does not bus students over to Wasserman Park for practice. So I just wanted to make sure that those two statements were accurate. Thank you.
Let me just comment on that briefly. Bus was used in a generic way, not necessarily meaning a big yellow vehicle. But to my knowledge, the tennis team was coming over to Wasserman Park for practices.
Right, I think
We know they weren't using the O'Gara Drive stuff. We know that.
Oh, good.
that's always been a problem in Merrimack, because I do believe if they're using it for practice, they're driving their own vehicles there, which I see as a potential legal liability. But that's just me. Teams go up to the elementary school from the high school, and that's always been personal transportation.
Right, it's not just the tennis team.
Right.
Lots of teams do that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We're all set?
Just one more thing. I want to
Absolutely.
thank Chris for spearheading all the projects, too, with Matt. Matt is amazing. He pulls things off constantly with ideas and inspiration to make these things happen. But we also have never had such a full committee in the many years that we've been around, and it's nice to have that new blood and new ideas coming, including disc golf.
Great.
Some different things, some different ideas. But,
Thank you to
Thank
both of
you
you
for
for the
your
hours
support.
that you put into.
Welcome.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Mark.
Okay, next, public hearing related to the New Hampshire Safety Step Grant acceptance for the Merrimack Police Department. You're going to be sitting for a little while, right?
Good evening, Madam Chair and other members
You'll
of
be
the...
coming back later. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all right. Yeah, I could do that, couldn't I? I'm going to, if it's okay, I'm going to do it. I don't need permission, I suppose. I'm going to put all of the donations and everything together. There's a lot of new business having to do with the Merrimack Police Department in terms of grants. So under new business, donation acceptance, and acceptance of police standards, I'm going to do them all together, if that's okay. Okay? Great. Great. I hear this.
Thank you.
I don't know. I was
I
looking.
said no, but
1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Town council will hold a public hearing to consider the acceptance and expenditure of New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety, Safety Step, Sustained Traffic Enforcement Patrols, grant in the amount of $14,591.41 that has been awarded to the Merrimack Police Department. And I'll go ahead and have you do the rest.
Madam Chair and other members of the council, thank you for having us here. Before you is the approved acceptance of the New Hampshire Highway Safety Grant for sustained traffic enforcement patrols. These patrols will allow officers, in addition to our regular patrol officers, to work overtime to enforce traffic violations and educate the public. The grant's a little bit different this year. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrases of Operation Safe Commute or Join the Click. That's all been rolled into the Sustained Traffic Enforcement Patrol grant by the Highway Safety Division. It sort of allows us to customize our needs towards the issues that we have in town with traffic enforcement, education, or accidents. So we can customize it. It would put 232 hours of patrol for selected traffic enforcement. And as I said, it does include the previous Join the Click and Operation Safe Commute.
Excellent. Questions from the council? Yes, Finley?
thanks, Brian. I went through the packet and I couldn't find any statistical information from previous grants that we'd received for the Join the Click and the Operation whatever.
Safe Patrol,
Safe
yeah.
Patrol. And I didn't know if they were in there, if I've overlooked them, or if I could get those.
I can forward those off to you. I don't have them here with me tonight, but I can definitely get those for you.
Okay. Because for me, I'm always a little uncomfortable with this in particular because as a kid, I remember in the 70s, we were a community that was red lighted by AAA. Be careful, go slow. And I like to see these used as more of an educational tool as opposed to, whacking people.
Right,
with
I
fines
definitely
and
agree with
all.
you there. Like I said, it is an education tool to make people aware of various laws that they might even know are aware. You probably still see people driving around town using their cell phones. A lot of times there's not an awareness with that, so there's an education piece to this as well.
Okay, yeah, because I would like to see how it has been, stops versus warnings compared to.
Sure, I apologize, I don't have those numbers here tonight.
Yeah,
but
no, don't apologize. That's fine.
I can get you those.
Thank you.
Anything, Jody?
Thank you. Thanks very much. This is quite a bit of money that could come to the town, over $14,000, and I think it's fantastic that we have these opportunities for grant money to come to the town for things like this. But I just wanted to touch on something that I think Tom Koenig and I had talked about the last time. It looks like, I think this is standard language on Exhibit C1. Exhibit C1, page 1 of 1. It appeared, because I believe this was the same exact language, so I'm assuming that this language in all the grants that come to us? It's
These are the same
standard?
exhibits that will be from the Highway Safety Agency from New
Okay.
Hampshire.
All right. And we had a little bit of discussion about quotas. And I'm uncomfortable with quotas, and I know Tom voted against the last grant acceptance because he was uncomfortable with quotas. I'm not going to speak on your behalf, Tom. This is a conversation that we've had before, and we don't need to go over the same points, and I know the language is kind of gray because it says that it's recommended that the departments, and recommended is a subjective term that can be interpreted a lot of different ways, to conduct a minimum of 3 documented stops or contacts per hour. But then the language does go on to say that those stops don't necessarily have to result in summonses, which I appreciate. More to Finley's point, talking about it being educational, but I just wanted to state that whenever we accept these grants, that language is in there, and I am personally uncomfortable with quotas and having any kind of a recommended number, because to me that's kind of an arbitrary thing. And they said there are reasons such as weather or other things that you can specifically cite why you didn't have 3 per hour, but it technically is still a quota, so I just wanted to throw that out there again, and thank you. But it's a lot of money, and I get that too.
If I could respond. Unfortunately, there were some agencies, not our agency, that took advantage of the system and they basically took the money grab. They didn't do any enforcement, and they're just saying that they really would like to see some activity produced. I can tell you that today I was working on a grant for next year, and last year one of the issues was seatbelts, and it was 1 summons to 10 warnings. That was the stats that we had for last year. So it is a mere suggestion. It's just to make sure that the federal government and the state is actually getting some enforcement out there, some education and awareness about these laws.
And that makes a lot of sense, and I definitely can appreciate that. I think if we had statistics such as Finley asked for,
Right.
that might help us just a little bit more with that issue. So
Sure.
thank you
A
very
little more
much.
comfort with it.
Because what I have found is for all I don't think we've got in this last budget cycle, or maybe even the last two, I'm not sure. We get information that showed those things to show the work that's happened over the previous year. It's always been 6 to 8% receive tickets versus the 92 to 94% that don't. And if that's similar to what we found there, then I'm comfortable with it. I don't want it to become a hammer, I guess.
You just want to validate that that's what's happening.
I do. And I appreciate it.
I can tell you from the years past that typically our summons to warnings ratio is rather large in the warning side, somewhere around like 400 to 3,000 warnings. So it's quite considerable. There's definitely a lot of education and awareness out there that our guys often use their discretion towards issuing summons for those extreme cases.
Which is good community policing in my mind, and so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Alan?
I'm not trying to make a commentary on quotas or anything to dispute what you're saying, Jody. The only thing that I just wanted to do is make sure that everybody puts the numbers in perspective, because on DW Highway alone, there are something between 12 and 18,000 cars a day that go through there. So it's not like we have country roads and that kind of thing that we're talking about.
No, and I think that's great numbers for people to understand when we're talking about something like this. That kind of information, I think, is very helpful. Thank you.
Perspective, yeah.
If I can add one more comment.
Absolutely.
The other issue that we're noticing is that policing's turning to more call-taking services, so that our officers can't be out there enforcing these traffic violations, which typically, 10 years ago was predominantly higher. By allowing us to do this grant, will allow us to make the roadways safer for our citizens, as well as those that are commuting through town for business or just traveling through town. So,
Excellent. Very good. Okay, seeing nothing, I'd like to open. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't see it.
Sorry, thanks. I've been trying to raise my hand.
Sorry. Every time, you
Wasn't-
must be raising it
wasn't
every
flashing.
time I look this way.
So, this is always, like Finley said, one of those things where you kind of wonder, and Jody's alluded to it as well. This $14,000 comes to the town as additional money, but it's only used to pay overtime patrols, right? So it goes straight to putting police back on the street above and beyond our standard police enforcement activities that we pay for out of our regular budget.
correct. As I said before, the officers are tied up on calls. This allows for officers to be 3 hours dedicated at a time we dictate that we have problems during traffic, typically commuting hours. They'll be dedicated to this patrol. They won't be call taking. They'll just be looking for issues that they see on the roadway.
And do we have some kind of a plan for how we're going to assign those hours? Is it a regular thing that we're going to go out on, weekdays in the afternoon or something like that?
It'll depend on the week. It's basically where we see there's issues. We also have several times during the year where the Operation Safe Commute will be operating. That's a nationwide standard, as well as Join the Click. There's times in May, in October, that we have to participate. Well, it's recommended we participate in those hours. Of course, we want to, follow the national trend.
Okay. So this money, while it's coming to the town, is for additional patrols, and it goes straight through into paying overtime for officers to be out there on the street.
Correct. Only enforcing traffic
Only
violations.
enforcing. And as you pointed out, our officers are spending a lot of time doing calls and
Right.
things like that. Can't be necessarily out on the street, quote unquote, protecting us, enforcing the rules and laws and stuff like that. So
Correct.
there's certainly advantages to it. I understand that, but there's also the other thought that it's not really money that's enhancing the town unless you think of it as enhanced protection for the people out there driving.
I think anytime where we can get some kind of awareness out there, and if people see police officers on the streets, naturally they're not going to speed by them and stuff, which would ultimately can drive down our accidents in the town. And that's something that we look forward to. And by doing these increased patrols, hopefully our accidents will decrease every year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dan?
If only anecdotally, would you say that the seatbelt clicking has maybe taken a back seat to the cell phone use since the law has been changed? Like you personally, or the rest of the word from the rest of you guys at the force, are you really seeing in having to stop people to say, hey, you're on your phone, it's against the law? I mean, is it already a pretty predominant thing on a daily, weekly basis?
I know that driving around my own personal vehicle around town,
Yeah.
of course I see it much more often because I'm not driving a giant black and white police car.
Right.
So I truly think that there's several people that aren't aware of the law, and it's something that still needs to be enforced because it leads to negligent driving.
Yep. And this would fall under that category?
Correct. That would be enforcing negligent driving as well.
All set. Okay, now I will open the public hearing at 7:54. And the crowd comes up.
Crowd is rushing to the stands.
Seeing none, let's close the public hearing at 7:55. And entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move to accept the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety STEP grant in the amount of $14,591.41, and to authorize the town manager to execute the documents as required.
Second.
Motion made by Tom Mahan, second by Dan Dwyer. Okay, I think all the discussion's been had. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
One. Okay. The vote is 6-1-0. Tom Koenig in opposition. Okay, you stay right where you are, because I'm going to move you up. Captain Albert will be next. Okay. Okay, now this is acceptance under the new business, Article 3. Acceptance of police standards and training council grant funds. Town council to consider the acceptance and expenditure of 2 training grants from the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Council in the amount of $595 for field training officer training and $1,900 for at-scene accident investigation training pursuant to RSA 31:95-5 and Charter Article 8-15.
Madam Chair and other members of the council, the agenda request before you is accepting of 2 training grants, one for $595 and one for $1,900. These are funds that we had to pay for schools that were previously offered by the Police Standard and Training Council at no cost to us. However, due to funding issues this past year and reduction in their penalty assessment funds that they got for the training to run the Police Standard and Training, they eliminated these types of courses that we need as a police department. As you are well aware, we have several new hires coming on the road, and as we progress through the years and retirements, we're limiting the number of field training officers. So one of the ideas was that we had to get another field training officer trained, and that's the cost of $595. That officer has subsequently gone to the course and passed the course. The other issue is, as you see, the 2 members before you today that retired were members of our accident investigation team. So that's something that we need to get more members on. So therefore, that's specialized training as well. And those 2 officers are going to be conducted a week-long school for $950 each. We had paid for those courses, and subsequently, Chief Doyle was one of the speakers on the Senate Bill 527, which restored the Police Standard and Training Council budget into the state budget, not relying on penalty assessment fees.
Good job, Captain Doyle. Chief Doyle, Captain. Excellent. Okay, council questions. Yes, Bill?
Thank you. May not be a question for you, Lieutenant, maybe for Paul, but previously, we would have been pulling this out of the education and training budget. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Correct.
This was already a paid-for course.
Right.
And then we had the opportunity, we received notice from the Police Standard that we could submit for a grant, which we wanted to take advantage of because obviously we'd rather spend the money from the council versus our own town money.
So we're actually freeing up more money to give whoever is responsible for training more flexibility to look at programs to do what needs to be done to get offices up and running and train for whatever the specific need is.
Correct. The hope of the acceptance of this grant is that that money will be returned to our training fund.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Jody?
Thank you. Bill actually raised the question because I wondered if we'd have more training opportunities available down when we got that money back. So,
Eileen?
I was just saying to Dan that I just met 3 brand new officers that were just hired this week. So, and they're going to be going to the academy, and they all looked about 10. But anyway, so we have quite a few new officers, and I think we have one more spot open. Yeah.
I think training is so important. And I just don't think we could. It's just to have the money necessary, especially with the new officers coming on. I think it's so important. Thank you, Chief, for bringing that money back to us.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Town Council accept and expend 2 training grants from the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Council in the amount of $595 for field training officer training and $1,900 for at-scene accident investigation training, which equates to $950 times 2 officers, pursuant to RSA 31:95-B and Charter Article 8-15, and furthermore, that the town manager and or her proxy be authorized to sign any and all documents necessary to perfect the expenditure of the money.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, seconded by
Second.
Tom Mahon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, 700. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That
Lieutenant,
wasn't
thank
too
you.
bad an inauguration, was it?
What's impressive is that you went ahead of the captain. I'm very impressed with that.
He gave me, he's going to pay me later. Captain Albert, come on up. Donation acceptance for the Merrimack Police Department. Town Council to consider the acceptance and expenditure of a donation of $250 to the Merrimack Police Department to be used towards the police canine unit from Mrs. Susan Flaherty in honor of her late husband, James Henry Flaherty III. Go right ahead.
Just a little bit of background on this, another great sign of support from the citizens of this town for the police department. Mrs. Flaherty back in March came to the station after one of our officers had gone to her house to assist her on an issue she was having. Came in and was very happy with the service she received and dropped this off and said she wanted to donate it to the K-9 fund and in honor of her husband. And so the officer involved was Officer Bill Vanderside, who helped her out, and she said that she had had some other interactions with our officers and need for their assistance over the years, and she appreciated that. And so she wanted to make this donation, and I'm here before you asking you to accept it.
Excellent. I could entertain a motion here.
So moved.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, seconded by Finley Rothaus. All those in favor say aye.
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 700.
With the usual thanks and appreciation.
With the usual.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yes, we're putting a card out to her.
Oh,
Excellent.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain.
Okay, back to our regular programming. Legislative updates from state representatives. We have one here, and here he comes. Representative Christensen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't have any grand things to say about any pending legislation, but I do want to say that the delegation wishes to commend Tom Mahon for his service. We all, as a delegation, stand ready to work with the town council. And I would like to point out, I think you guys are all sitting in the judges' chambers right now, but the building you're sitting in has been hugely renovated. because Tom Mayon was very instrumental in helping us get funding and planning for the new courthouse, thus making this room available for the grand use it gets now. So I want to say thank you on behalf of the delegation to Tom Mayon for all that hard work. It took several years to make that call come together.
You're more than welcome. I appreciate the support.
That's it.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Town Manager's report.
The Crime Line Annual Magic Show fundraiser for Police Department K-9 Gunny. Boy, he gets a lot of cash. I love that. I always say this, but what is it, wash and blowout that he gets? The magic show is going to be on Saturday from 10 to 2 at the American Legion. Magicians will be on hand to entertain throughout the day, and Gunny will be putting on a demonstration as well. Thank you.
Excellent. There's no consent agenda. There's no old business. Under new business, Human Resource Coordinator grade change. Eileen?
Yes, I am proposing a grade change for the Human Resources Coordinator. This position is currently situated in grade 15 with, is currently situated in grade 15 with the accounting supervisor and assistant assessor and assistant planner. This job over the years has grown and developed. We have 6 very complex union contracts. We also have all kinds of new rules, Federal Family Medical Leave Act. We have the new Affordable Care Act. In anticipation of all of those things and changes, we are constantly doing all kinds of things in relation to grievances and the various steps of those, union contract negotiations, and people out on workers' comp, which requires a certain kind of information and background. People out on FMLA, people out, so there's just an enormous amount of work and knowledge that a person has to have and to maintain to keep everybody's files correct. And Chief Doyle will attest to the fact that Sharon's records are perfect. So anyway, as this position really does not equate to the other people, not the other people, but the other positions within grade 15, and is much more detailed and sophisticated and requires a lot more knowledge. I am proposing to move this position from grade 15 to a grade 20, which is includes the Assistant Public Works Director, the Deputy Finance Director, the Highway Operations Manager, and the Technology Coordinator. There will be 3% raise for her, and then an increase as all the rest of the non-union will get on July 1st. And it basically gives, this person has reached the top of her scale and has been here for many, many years. This gives the person the opportunity when there are raises to actually receive them. So I very, very highly recommend this.
Now, included in this is a revised job description, right? With the enhanced responsibilities. Okay, discussion. Any discussion? Okay, yes, Dan.
I just want to point out for the public's information as well. There's something that we had talked about in a non-public meeting because it was a personnel matter. But as I've always said from when I first came here in 2010, that I always took the job as a counselor as kind of being a part of a team of running the town of Merrimack as a business. So when you really look at this job, at this position, it's really become almost a department head-like responsibility. The running of the town, for people who don't know or don't remember, but we have over 240 employees. So when you say that any other person in the private sector running that type of a business with that many employees, it's quite a professional task at hand. So to me, I didn't have a lot of heartburn over that issue for the job. The healthcare package and the way it's been changing over the years, and again with 240 employees, the contracts and all that. So to me, I support it for those reasons. Thank you.
Tom, did you want to say something? Oh, Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To dovetail off of Councilor Dwyer's comments, I think that the human resources role has evolved to the point that it's really no longer a benefits administrator kind of position. I think, having been on the council now for the last 5 years, the individual currently in the role really has increased her responsibilities as it relates to labor relations and the value that she's provided not to Paul and Eileen but to the council in terms of, as Eileen alluded to, negotiating contracts and trying to get the best bang for our buck as it relates to a quality health care program that is able to provide quality health care to our employees, but yet also watches the bottom line for us here as in our community. I think those particular pieces, along with her interaction as it relates to the grievances process, and I forget, I'm drawing a total blank on what the arbitration, grievances and arbitration. I think, is it okay to say her name? I'm sorry. No. Is it okay? I think Sharon really has taken on a lot of responsibilities in helping Eileen with those particular roles. And as I've alluded to privately, I think calling it a coordinator's position, it doesn't rise to the level of coordinator. I really think it rises to the level of a directorship, and I hope that at some particular point we can look at a title change for this. But for now, I think that with the with the enhanced job description and the pay grade change, I think is commensurate to the level of work that Sharon provides the community. So I'm enthusiastically supporting the upgrade from 15 to 20. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Charity?
I just wanted to speak in support of this as well. I believe that the upgrade in the grade, as well as the revised job description, more accurately reflects the work that is currently being done and has been done for months, if not a year or two. So I believe we're bringing the grade and the job description up to what is currently happening now. So I'm in support of this.
Perfect. Yes, John?
Just to jump on that bandwagon a little bit, having been involved with town government for quite a while and having watched Sharon grow in that position, I can certainly concur with all the statements that are being made. The responsibilities that she's had since I first started, which was well over 10 years ago, and the growth in that requirement, when we removed the assistant town manager job, she had to be able to step up to take on more things, and has grown very much into that, along with the size of the town, the size of the unions, the size of all of the negotiations she's had to do. It has taken on a much larger task than when she was originally just the human resources coordinator at a grade 15. And so I also concur that it's definitely time that we recognize and notice that the job she's doing is a much more extensive and responsible task for the town, and we should appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? None. Okay, how about a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the Town Council accept the Town Manager's recommendation of a grade change for the Human Resources Coordinator from grade 15 to grade 20, and to adjust the salary accordingly related to the enhanced responsibilities in the job description.
Second.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, seconded by Tom Mahon. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. 7-0-0. Okay. I'm going to request that Well, we can, thank you. I would like to hold off on the number 4 just for a minute, because we need to delay for a minute. So could we perhaps do the minutes while we're waiting?
Sure.
Gee, that's subtle.
Madam Chair, I move the Thursday, February 11th,
You're in charge.
I
You're the chair. Do it.
finally, go right ahead.
Madam Chair, I move the Thursday, February 11th, 2016 minutes
As written? Or
with a request for clarification.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, on page 3, lines 31 through 34, it says the council returned to the regular order of business, then we recessed and reconvened.
I would suspect the council return to the order of business is probably not needed or moved
Or-
after. Go ahead, Jody. Do you
I
remember?
believe you moved that project up, did you not? So
Right,
that
she
that-
did.
So
She did.
that's what that was when the council returned to the regular order of business, met the agenda
I get
items.
that, but then it says we recessed and reconvened. So we,
So do you want to put the move to the regular order after the reconvene?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
yeah, I mean,
I think it makes sense.
I think it flows better.
Okay, so move line 31 to below 34.
Thank you. Otherwise, that's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Jody.
Are we doing corrections?
Yes.
now? Okay. On page, never mind, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. I'm all
Yep,
set.
this is February 11th.
Yep,
Okay, so motion made by Bill Boyd with the movement of that one item. Can I have a second?
Second.
Tom Mahan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. 7-0.
Abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
Finley.
Oh, the two of you. Okay.
These are
That's a good reason. 5-0-2. Finley Rothaus and Tom Koenig abstaining. February 25th, 2016.
Madam Chair, I move the Thursday, February 25th, 2016 minutes. I think Jody's going to have corrections. Just guessing.
Okay, go right ahead. We have corrections, Jody?
I guess correctly.
this is what happens when I get 3 or 4 minutes in one meeting and they all, and I did these, I think, 2 weeks ago. Anyway, I do have a correction, Bill. How did you guess? On page 1 of 7, line 34. Just more of a clarification. When I asked if the meeting with the MVD would still take place, it stated that Heritage Commission member Lon Wood said that no meeting had been set, which is true. Lon is a Heritage Commission member, but I think more pertinent to him answering the question is the fact that he's the chair of the MVD Commission. So if we could add that he's the chair of the MVD Commission, that would,
As well
I
as
think,
the Heritage Commission member?
the Heritage can stay in or go out. It doesn't matter to me. I just thought that would make a little bit more sense about why he
It probably
responded to
should
that
be-
question.
It should say Merrimack Village District Chair.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
I just think that, I thought maybe they put it that way because he wasn't there in his capacity as a chair of the village district. And didn't know
He wasn't, but it seems kind of,
He happened to be there.
Non-connected.
as a
Yes.
Heritage Commission member, but, so maybe in
Non-connected.
parentheses, you could add that information. I don't know, whatever.
Any other, Jody? Any other amendments? Okay, we have motion by, was it Bill? Did you make the motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Dan Dwyer. Excuse me. That was the 25th, so everybody was here, right? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. 7-0-0. March 10th.
Madam Chair, I move the Thursday, March 10, 2016 Town Council Special Session minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Bill Boyd, second by Tom Mahan. Any corrections?
Just page 1 of 2. Not
Any
page
correct?
1 of 1.
Oh, there you go. So on the second page, it should be 2 of 2. So 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. Good catch.
That's a good one, I like that.
It's easy when you have 2 pages to review.
Leave it like that, confuse posterity.
Okay,
Whatever.
no other corrections, I'm assuming? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? No, everyone was here, you're abstaining, you were gone. Okay, so it's 6-0-1, Tom Koenig abstaining. March 24th,
Move the minutes of March 24th.
Seconded.
motion made by Tom Mahan, seconded by Bill Boyd. Any corrections or changes? Jody?
Thank you, Nancy. On page 10 of 27, line 31,
Hold on. What line again?
31.
Yeah.
The sentence, "The private school had stated they would only be willing to do it once." Could we add a year?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Any other changes? Seeing none, and was everybody present that night?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
I'm
No
going to
abst-
abstain on these minutes.
You are going to abstain, okay. So it's going to be 6-0-1, Finley Rothaus abstaining. Excellent. Okay, now, we're going to go to number 4. Just sit back and enjoy, Councilor Mayor.
It's the Tom Mahon Celebrity Roast.
Number 4,
Yeah.
special recognition of Town Council Vice Chairman Tom G. Mahan. Town Council will present a plaque in a moment to Thomas J. Mahan for his services to the town of Merrimack, as the member of the Merrimack Town Council. But I want to read the following first. And then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this, and open it up to the council, and it can be a roast as far as I'm concerned.
A deserved one,
I
right?
deserve
Would
it.
you expect anything less?
And any comments from the public if they wish to make it. Tonight is Tom Mahan's last meeting, for now, as a town councilor. In order to fully envelop all that Tom has contributed to the town of Merrimack would take a very, very long time and would most likely miss something. Tom has lived in Merrimack for 40 years, and in that 40 years has been an extremely active member of our community. Some examples include chairman of the Charter Commission in 2005 and 6, which established this town council form of government. School board chairman and member for many years. Budget committee for a total of 13 years. Chair of the 4th of July committee for 8 years. I'm getting tired. New Hampshire Rail Transit Authority for the last 10 years, which you really liked doing that. You liked the
Still
railroad.
do.
Still do. Library Building Committee. Town council member since 2006, and in those years, 3 years you were chair and 2 years you were vice chair, which translates into 10 years of very time-consuming and valuable service. This obviously does not include any of the extra parental involvement in activities with his daughter Hillary as she was growing up in this town, or additional community activities with his wife Donna Hastings. I believe I can speak for the council when I express happiness for him, but sadness for us. The public cannot appreciate the amount of historical knowledge and experience that he has brought to the council over these 10 years. He is a walking Wikipedia of Merrimack places, persons, and events, and always knows the state RSAs, and has always added that additional historical perspective that is valuable to decisions we make daily. On a personal level, I want to thank Tom for taking me under his wing as I learned the ropes of being the chair of this council for this past almost 2 years. He has taught me the nuances of leadership and has been invaluable resources for guidance for so many issues that have occurred during this time. Believe me, I will continue to seek his guidance, and I've already told him that he's on speed dial when I need his counsel. We all know that he will continue his involvement with town activities in some capacity, and we'll see him around town in many of the events he will continue to attend. Enjoy your free time, which I'm sure will be used in other pursuits that are just as valuable, and Godspeed.
Thank you.
We're not done.
I know.
Does anyone else wish
I'm
to?
going to chime in right away because
Go for
your words were perfect. So I can't figure it out. Is he a saint or a masochist? After 6 years, I still can't quite figure it out. But in all seriousness, when I came on between Dave Yakuboff and Tom and everybody else on the council at that time, they always were very opening to learn more about me, and I'll always appreciate that. And Tom's wisdom sometimes can just be you can't do that. That would be, So you come on the council and you want to do something, and it may sound like a great idea to you or me, and Tom will always be, well, no, you can't do that. And you go, well, no, you just try to steamroll Tom, and then out comes out RSA 2456, and then you just walk away like it's dead in the water. But the good news about that is he stops you from spinning your wheels. So, good ideas may sound good to some people, and they want you to do something about something or some problem. But in the end, that dreaded phrase, institutional knowledge, doesn't just mean that you're old. In this case, maybe Tom, maybe it does. But the fact is, your community service it's undeniable, along with many other people in town who have had a lot of input in town. Tom, you'd have to rank up there is really right up there with the best of them, because the list that Nancy said is quite true. And from me to you, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yes, Tom.
I also want to thank you for your help and your activity and support. I met Tom back in the probably the mid-'90s, shortly after I moved to town in '91. Got involved with him on the budget committee and on the school planning committee and things of that nature, and was very impressed with his leadership and guidance, how he could get a group of 30 people or so or more on the school building committee to come together and agree on anything.
My colleagues called that the Bosnian peace talks.
Considering the divisiveness of the town at that time and the different attitudes people had as to whether we should be or shouldn't be adding to our school buildings, I was very impressed and have ever since been impressed with the work and the effort that you've done, especially with the town charter and then running to be on the council when the council was formed. I was very excited to see you join the council at that time and happy to have you be part of the team, and have been happy to have you be part of the team ever since then. Didn't know you when you were a member of the school board or any of those things, but I know you gave your heart and soul to everything you've done, and appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Finley.
I am going to miss Tom terribly. What he brings to the table is pretty amazing, and people really don't understand that, possibly because of his occasional snippiness. But it's truly not meant the way it comes out. I know it's not, and it's been on more than one occasion that I've tried to make people understand that, because it's been an incredible time working with Tom. Tom Kay already spoke to it, but that Charter Commission was the most amazing time I've spent on any committee or any group in town. And when that all came together, there were 9 of us that met very often, and we, if you really take the time to just go through that document, it was incredible that it was able to be pulled together. I can't remember now; it seemed like an eternity, but I think it was about 8 or 9 months. 6 months, and
it just felt
and
like
it was
9 months.
and it was almost weekly meetings, but there would be subcommittee meetings that just kept going with it and everything. And but it was just it was a highlight for me of the different things that I've had the opportunity to do is working with Tom. And the committee, you did miss budget committee chairman, I believe.
I knew we'd miss something.
Yeah. So. Well, you were pointing out the chairman, and you just you missed it on that. It's just most of them he's been a chairman of at least once or twice. But I'm going to miss you, and I appreciate everything, Tom.
Thank you.
Jody?
Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to miss Tom very much. I mean, everybody's spoken about the institutional knowledge. I don't know that there's anybody that has the kind of governmental knowledge and then specific history information that pertaining to Merrimack that Tom does, and that's been a huge asset to this commission. I also personally, I have enjoyed working with Tom. He's incredibly approachable, and when I've got some ideas I want to bounce off of him or differences of opinions, he's always open to listening to what I have to say and giving me feedback on some things that I've wanted to bounce some things off of, and I've really enjoyed working with you, Tom. The other thing that I just want to make sure everyone understands is, and I personally know how much work when you do get elected to a position like this. Chairmanship is an incredible amount of work, Nancy, as you found out. And vice chair, it can be a lot of work too. But Tom goes above and beyond with the quantity of work that he does, and especially with the pipeline issue that we've had this past year. There's been just an unbelievable amount of extra meetings and extra information that's been passed on through various state government and things like that. Tom's always volunteered. Some of us, it's not easy for us to get to meetings during the day. Tom has always volunteered. He spent all these hours in these meetings and then comes back and reports back to everyone about what's happened. And it's just an incredible amount of work that Tom does, and I think that's going to be missed because he really pulls his weight and then some on this commission. So thank you, Tom. I'm going to miss you. I really hope you do find some time to relax and do some things that you enjoy, because you have definitely earned it. Thank you.
Bill, last but not least.
It's very difficult to follow up with the accolades and the comments that my colleagues have showered upon Councilor Mahan. So, since brevity is the essence of wit,
and you're always brief.
I'm very brief. I will say this. Several years ago, we created a volunteer policy, and Tom gave me a Sunday afternoon, 2.5, 3 hours in the council chambers going through every single line of that volunteer policy. And I could not have been more thrilled with the product that Tom worked with my idea. We worked through the language, and we were able to get the town council to agree with what we had put together. And I couldn't have been more grateful for the amount of time that Tom gave me and we talk about all the time. But I mean, to me, a Sunday afternoon, that's kind of sacrosanct. He gave me a Sunday afternoon. Middle of a Sunday afternoon, could have been bouncing waves with his ham radio, or he could have been watching a ball game. But no, he was with me, haggling through language on a volunteer appointment policy that it's a good policy. So it was a tremendous learning experience for me, and above that and beyond all that, the emails that Tom has provided to us with the issues that we've been talking about, it's always good to get Tom's insight sent to us whenever somebody it's usually bouncing something off of something that Eileen has given to us, and Tom's generally the first one to chime in 99 and 44 100% of the time. Tom is spot on with his analysis, and I don't think anybody can quibble about that. And I, for one, am going to miss that, because that is part of the reason why it makes us prepare when we sit here every other Thursday night. So, Tom, thank you so very much for being a counselor, a mentor, and a friend to me. Thank you for all of the work that you've given this community, and I wish you nothing but health and happiness with whatever you choose to do in your retirement, both professionally and with your family. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
Does anyone from the public want to say anything? This is your opportunity.
Do you want me to get it from you? He and I were on the school board together, and the budget committee.
Tom Mahan, thank you. Its brevity is the soul of wit, Mr. Boyd. So I will be. But I don't know. A couple of kids Tom Mann Longwood showed up on the Budget Committee, showed up on the School Board, Charter Commission. Tom was in support of my being very briefly a member of the Town Council. Families, MYA. I think the public should understand that everything the councilors have talked about tonight in terms of Tom's knowledge and in terms of Tom's expertise and guidance should be valued beyond what you really know in terms of the trouble he's probably kept the town, the school, out of from time to time. I intend to be around a few years. I had a conversation with Tom as recent as yesterday afternoon, where I was extolling his mind that I like to pick from time to time, and I will be continuing to do that. Tom, thank you very much for acquiescing to that. Good luck, my brother. Love you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no one else, I'm going to read the plaque that Tom's going to receive. And then we have refreshments. We're going to adjourn and have refreshments. Okay. Presented to Thomas J. Mahon in recognition of the dedicated service you have given for the past 10 years, beginning with serving as a member of the first Town Council for the town of Merrimack. It is a pleasure to present you with this plaque. Your dedication and donation of countless hours has made Merrimack a better place to live and work. We wish to extend to you our sincere appreciation for your outstanding performance. July 2006 to April 2016, presented on the behalf of the town of Merrimack, this 14th day of April 2016. You got to stand up because I got to hug you.
Thank you.
And you may choose to say some words, or you may choose not to.
Well,
Which
my first volunteer effort was a referee for the MYA Basketball League. And I showed up at the high school gym. It was a senior game. And it was a style that I was used to, having played in Philadelphia and South Jersey. They were banging bodies like mad. It was just, I mean, it was clean the way they were doing it, but they were, it was basketball as a contact sport, which some people say it's a non-contact sport, which is a joke. But anyway, I was refereeing with Dick Dumont, who at the time was a police officer. And in that game, he called 6 technical fouls. And I'm standing there going, what have I gotten into? What is this? He threw a coach and a couple of parents out of the gym for some of the calls that he had made. I'm just standing there going, what are you doing? You know? So anyway, that was my introduction to some of that activity, and obviously it didn't deter me because I kept on going.
You thought it'd get better.
No, I didn't think so, but I said, well, maybe that's the way they do it up here. I'm not used to it. The other thing is that you talked about my family, and they've been very supportive. And dealing with my daughter, it was always, we would go to the store, and she would say, are you going to talk politics? And usually I did, but I would just hand her the list, and she would go and finish the list, and that was the cue to come. That was my opportunity to say, hey, look, I got to go. My daughter's here. I got to go back home and do things like that. My wife has been very supportive through all of this, and I have always appreciated that very much, because it doesn't happen. When you talk about the gentleman we had in here earlier this evening, police officers for 30 years, I've always tried to recognize the contributions that their families and their wives have made to that difficult job, because that's shift work and some of the other stuff that goes on with that. You just don't know what's going to happen. And so, it's really important to have that kind of support. And I'm always grateful that I did have that support throughout this whole my time on the many boards and commissions. And that 34 people on that committee. What he didn't tell you is there were 2 representatives from every building in the school district that were assigned by the superintendent as advisory members of the committee. So it was like 45 people.
Oh my God.
It took us 4 meetings to get going. I mean, it took 12 hours before we even...
So compared to them, we're pretty good.
Yeah. And this whole process, with the council and the charter and everything has really been good. I really had a good time with it. I've enjoyed it, and it's been great working with the group of people that I've had on this charter, this council for the 10 years. It's really helpful. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is one of the reasons I knew all that stuff is because I worked with it every day at my regular job, the job I got paid to do. And how many times you call me, Sharon? Because I was doing the personnel stuff and the unemployment material and things like that, and doing the training programs for town employees for throughout the state of New Hampshire, and it was just they would call me before they call their lawyer, and it was just an interesting possibility to deal with those particular things. So it's been a very great time. I've always been very grateful and very humbled by the people of Merrimack for their support. I don't think I've lost an election in this town. I don't think so. I haven't gone back and looked, but I don't think I've ever lost, and that really.
You'd remember if you did, Tom.
I know. Yeah. Since I beat Dan twice.
I deserve that.
But he's turned out very well. He's been a very, very valued member of this council, very, very insightful. He's been willing to change his mind on issues. Dave Yakuboff was another important person in my life. He ran for the Charter Commission, and he was bound and determined to be chairman. The other members of the Charter Commission had other ideas, because Finley told me, he said, "Hey, I ain't running for this. If you're not elected, I'm not doing it. I'm going to resign. You got to be there."
I knew it was going to be a chore.
Yeah.
And Dave actually, after a few meetings, Dave acknowledged that. He said, "I'm glad I didn't get it," because it was a monster.
I started explaining the difference between city forms and town forms and some of the subtleties in there, and his eyes just kept going like this, and you could see the wheels turn. Oh my God, am I glad he's doing that and not me? Because, and I said that to him later. He says, "Whatever happened? What?" I said, "You have the ability to listen to people. You have the ability to change your mind. I saw it in your eyes the night we were talking about that." He says, "Yeah, man, I was so glad." So that was one of those things, and it's just been that kind of experience.
Well, we almost were a city government at the beginning of that whole process, and Dave was one of those proponents of that, and it just gradually morphed into where we are.
Well, we decided, that was purposeful. We decided to start with the city form because we could always go back.
I was panicking, I have to be honest with you, because I thought it was going to go that way. And I wasn't in favor of it then, still not.
No, but through the process, everybody learned what the differences were between that and how did it fit this community or not, and at the time it didn't. And so that's besides that, we got a lot of feedback on that from people. We know what you're doing, but that's not a good idea. So but that was sort of that's what makes it interesting, and the satisfaction, people said, "Are we having fun yet?" And I said, if it wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it. And by fun, we mean the satisfaction we get out of it.
That's right.
Okay, so that's some of the approach that I took with it, some of the things that I've done, and I really appreciate you coming out this evening to honor me, and thank you very much for that. All of you have been very supportive of me and what I've done most of the time. When I've left the reservation, you let me know about it, and so it's been a good group to work with. We've respected each other. We've taken each other's opinions. We get upset a little bit at the meeting, but it goes away because, okay, we had it out. Yeah. We laid everything on the table. Everybody had their opportunity, and we resolved the issue. And a lot of time, and most of the time, we made better decisions.
That's right.
Because it's the thing I used to tell people when I was doing a training program. None of us as smart as all of us. And when you try to foster that commitment, try to foster that participation, find out what people are thinking and why they're thinking that way. A lot of times you come up with different ways of doing things, or a better way of doing things, and that's always been something that we've worked on. So, for me, thank you all very much. I appreciate it very much, and I know I'm on speed dial.
I'm not kidding. You are. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion for.
You have 3 more items, Madam Chair. Comments from the press? Comments from the public?
There's no press here, so there's any comments from. Is there any comments from a press that's not here? No. Is there any comments from the public? Any comments from the council members?
Motion to adjourn.
Ah, there we are. Motion made by Bill Boyd, seconded by John Mahan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 7-0-0.
Dustin Muzzerell, 14 Brenda Lane.
Say your name again.
Dustin Muzzerell.